Hello, and welcome back to my channel, or new viewers, welcome. It is with a very heavy heart that there is yet another tragedy in the news that at this point I feel the need to discuss. Something perhaps I have more insight into than most people, having been exposed to people on both sides of the aisle more than most. That is the Alex Pretti shooting. Let's be clear. This is a hot topic issue. It is highly politicized, and people will find ways to tell stories that don't sound anything like they're talking about the same event here. But it was ultimately an abuse of power by those who feel they owe no account to anyone. And this is why I want to discuss this. This is the clearest, starkest reveal of the utter, mind-blowing hypocrisy and the true nature of the MAGA fascists. I don't know if any of you remember this saying. I do. I grew up in areas where this kind of thing was repeated all the time. The NRA vice president saying in 2012, this is one Wayne LaPierre. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. This is in 2012, after a school shooting. The National Rifle Association said this and then tried to put guns in schools to supposedly protect students. We all know how that worked out. Even when there were armed officers in schools, they did not put their lives on the line to stop shootings. But that's not what I'm going to talk about, other than to point out the mind-blowing hypocrisy here. Now, I'm a history buff. You may know me from my gaming channels. I do that because it builds an audience. Because I'm disabled with long COVID and I have to survive. Because my dreams were stolen from me by a virus, by a disability caused by the virus, and by the complete and utter disregard for my health and safety of a roommate who came back from a business trip infected with COVID. But politics is my true passion, not gaming. Gaming is a way to build an audience, to survive, to hopefully get YouTube sponsorship someday. Although with the censorship of the left and the way that sponsors won't have anything associated with anyone whose views are left of center, I doubt that that's going to work out particularly well. And with the Social Security Administration fighting my SSI case in bad faith and having already cheated me out of SSDI, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't provide me assistance till I end up homeless and die. But this history and politics is something I know a lot about. It's something that I have been very passionate about for a long time. I almost majored in instead of biology, but I decided I could help more people with biology. That history was and politics were intractable problems because there's a large segment of the population who doesn't wish to engage in reality. I saw this at the age of 17, and it's only become more obvious since that people talk past each other, and especially on the right, they live in their own little world that's got no connection to reality. Now, the Republicans, the GOP, have been saying the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And yet, when Alex Pretti carried a legal, licensed firearm, did not touch it, did not lay a finger on it, did not threaten officers with it, did not shoot at officers, did not say he was going to hurt officers. Nothing. He just simply had it on him. 6 Customs and Border Patrol agents wrestled him to the ground, disarmed him, and then shot him more than 10 times while he was on the ground in an act of cold-blooded, or perhaps more accurately, hot-blooded because they were not thinking rationally. There's no question. Murder. I'm not saying these people are evil. I'm saying that they were irrational and stupid to do this. And actually, as the DHS person said, there's one element of truth that when you carry a firearm around police or federal agents, it does increase your risk of being killed. That is true. That is why this whole don't tread on me nonsense that the GOP loves to claim is dangerous. And of course, yeah, they have gone away with standing at protests, heavily armed. Let's see if I can even find an image for you. Armed right-wing protesters. Shouldn't be too hard. Guns. Well, actually, those are... No, are those people pretending to be... That they may actually be, but guns. Some of these are in fake combat gear, but they're not soldiers, mind you. Guns. The far right loves to parade around their guns, and they never, ever say that they should be shot for it. But when someone who they assume is left-wing, and that's, I must point out, assume, because Pretti worked at a VA hospital. He was all rah-rah about the veterans. He worked with them every day. If anything, he was probably a centrist. One of those maybe never Trump Republicans is probably a more accurate description of the sort of crowds he carried in. I can't say whether having looked into it or not, he himself was left-wing or right-wing. But I can tell you that a lot of the people at VA hospitals do tend to be right-wing. It's possible he even carried the firearm as a sort of way of identifying with these crowds, letting them know that he supported the Second Amendment or whatever. Or it could have been because he was scared of crime. Or it could have been that he was scared because the Republicans constantly say that anytime the left-wing protests, it's a riot and it's dangerous and there's bad actors and they're looting and stealing and mugging. So maybe he was afraid for the safety of the left-wing protesters. We do not know why he was carrying a firearm that day. We know, though, he had the right to carry it. The legal right, Second Amendment right, state right, licensed. And he didn't threaten anyone with it. But he was shot 10 times. Once, twice is a concern for safety. When you empty a magazine into someone while they're on the ground, that's not concern for safety. That's an execution. Or that is completely losing control of your emotions. These agents were not doing things that were rational or justified by the situation, the federal agents. And I say this, I knew a very good master sergeant who went and worked for Customs and Border Patrol. I'm not somebody who's going to tell you all the CBP people are terrible. It's not like ICE, which is recruiting far-right individuals and is very dangerous. CBP, generally speaking, at least pre-Trump, was a much more sane division of the government, although it was still one that probably should not exist at its current size and scale and funding levels. Another thing that comes into play is the right wing never means what they say about the right to carry arms. This is historically documented. This is why knowing your history is so important. When the Black Panthers carried firearms, a picture is worth 1,000 words. They carried armed patrols to protect against police violence. You can see them carrying guns. Ronald Reagan, the one who became U.S. president, then governor of California, said about disarming them, restricting their Second Amendment right to carry arms, because it scared the bejesus out of his right-wing white base that black people would dare carry arms around because of, concerns of police officers brutally murdering people. Of course, I'm not sure what they could have done if they get in a standoff with police who are about to murder someone. They're likely to just get shot themselves. It was never a very rational policy, but it was exercising their Second Amendment rights, and so Reagan made it illegal. It was legal when they carried the guns originally, and so Reagan went about making it illegal. And then police also went about murdering leaders of the Black Panthers, such as Fred Hampton. I'm not sure if he was essentially executed. He was drugged, then shot and killed in his bed during a pre-dawn raid. It's what Wikipedia says. I believe he was drugged because he took a sleep medicine or something, or not related to the police, but he was shot and killed, according to his pregnant, I think it was, fiance, who was there with him. Police officer kneeled him on the ground, shot him execution style in the side of the head. I'm not sure if the forensic evidence supports her claim, but that's what she claimed happened. He was definitely murdered in a no-knock raid that went in guns blazing. The only round that was fired at police in that raid was after they shot someone who was carrying a shotgun, who, after was dead, when you're dead, your muscles clench up, and the guy fired a single shot from his shotgun after he'd already been killed. This is kind of like if you shoot someone in behind a car and then their foot goes down hard on the gas because they're dead. They can't control their actions anymore because they're dead. The Black Panthers did not shoot at the police in the Fred Hampton raids. The police came in guns blazing and murdered Fred Hampton, because specifically the Chicago police, because he was a danger to the power of the billionaires and of the right wing in the United States. But anyone who knows that history knows that the right to carry arms has always been something that's conditional, that's hypocritical. You can go back over and over again in American history to the militias that were designed to put down slave riots in the U.S. South before the Civil War, to the restrictions on free black men in the North. Some who have been legally liberated or were born to escape slaves, or etc., etc. They were U.S. citizens, documented U.S. citizens. They were restricted from carrying firearms very often in northern states. You only have to look at stuff like, and especially southern states, you only have to look at stuff like this to know that the right to carry arms has never really existed except on paper. The Anti-Federalists, by the way, and you should watch Tad Sturmer's YouTube channel. He's a public historian, resistance historian. He does an excellent job talking about this. The Anti-Federalists correctly predicted everything that would happen with abuse of government power, with expanding authority, with creeping fascism in the U.S. someday, although the word fascism didn't really exist then. And they were the reason we have the Bill of Rights. They demanded it. The Federalists said we didn't need a Bill of Rights. They demanded the Bill of Rights, including the Second Amendment, the thing that the right wing treasures so much. They would have been shocked to see where our country is today, but they would have also been telling us, I told you so. Because now we reach the point where a hiker, ICU nurse who works with veterans, who is exercising his constitutional right to bear arms and was threatening no one with his weapons, was murdered. Was murdered by Customs and Border Patrol agents, and then the government set about lying. Then the government went about saying he brandished a gun, only to have to walk back the claim, as this New York Times article goes into a discussion of. 10 rounds emptied, more than 10 rounds emptied into him by 2 different agents, by the way, not even just one, while a different agent had already disarmed Alex Pretti. This is a sign of creeping fascism in the U.S. This is a sign of tyranny. But if you think that carrying weapons is going to save you from tyranny, you're sadly mistaken. We live in the age of drones, an age of tanks, of body armor, of mass surveillance. everything I say is almost certainly being surveyed by some pig in a suit to decide whether they can silence me over saying this, for instance. FBI, NSA, these people are monsters, and they don't realize they're monsters. They think they're the good guys. That's the part of the problem with the only thing that's bad guy with the gun is good guy with the gun, because the right wing will always think they're the good guys. That's why they call any left-wing protest a riot, because they think that the only legitimate authority comes from them. So if someone is resisting their authority, it's a riot. But if they protest, it's patriotic citizens standing up for what they believe in, whether it's January 6th or the neo-Nazis carrying torches in the South in Trump's first presidency. It does not matter. Was that Charlottesville? It does not matter. They think that they are the only legitimate holders of authority. They are incapable of seeing that they might be the baddies. There's this comedy sketch, Are We the Baddies? You should watch it. It's British comedy, but it's very good. It's on YouTube. Just search Are We the Baddies? Because we are the baddies, and we are becoming the greatest threat to world peace, the United States. You're not going to stop it. I don't think. Historically, tyrants have never stepped down except through being forced to step down through outside pressure, sometimes through mass economic disruption and resistance, but that rarely works. Ted Sturmer, though he's great, has this inaccurate view that works very often. It doesn't. Even the resistance to Nazis, he did a lot of his studying on beyond looking at the resistance to slavery in the United States. The Nazis were defeated from outside, and slavery wasn't ended until the U.S. Civil War. The best you can get is what the Anti-Federalists got with the Bill of Rights, is concessions, protections, stepping back the evil just a little bit or buying a little bit of time. And you're not going to defeat the U.S. military, especially not with guns. In fact, you go around carrying pistols or guns, they're just going to use this excuse to murder you, as we were seeing with Alex Pretti. If you're wise, get out of the country. Please, leave. Concerned about these things, you're awake to them, you're not bearing your head in sand. Leave and help people who have a harder time leaving. Leave. I can't leave. I'm disabled on COVID. No country will take someone who's too sick to work. And there are millions of Americans like me, too sick to work. Maybe they lack the skills, the education to work. They are often poor. I'm poor because I am disabled. I actually come from wealthier families and would have, at this point in my life, been finishing up medical school. I'd be in my final semester of med school now if I hadn't gotten long COVID, on the path to becoming a surgeon. Assuming I didn't then fail the USMLE, I'd be on the path to wealth. But I can't get out of the country. I can't get out of the country unless Americans leave the country. Now, look at the writing on the wall. It's not safe here anymore. Alex Pretti is not the first, and he will not be the last person who is murdered by feds. Get out and help other people to leave. Pressure the governments of the countries to go to. Go to Sweden, Norway, Denmark. The Nordic countries are not only as bad as far as you can get from flipping fascists, but Sweden historically has a good record of taking American refugees. During the Vietnam War, they took people who did not want to serve in the Vietnam War, who were worried about being drafted. They took them as political refugees. We need Americans to go to Sweden to pressure the Swedish government to do it again. Because the only way someone who's disabled like me can leave the U.S. is if countries take political refugees, which they're not doing yet, from the United States. Then I can go to Sweden and say, I fear political persecution, because I do. I fear at some point masked agents are going to bang down my door because I'm saying this and try and kill me, try and arrest me, try and disappear me to a prison camp where I'll probably die, especially with my body's reduced ability to deal with physical stressors. I ended up in the emergency room just driving a drive that was, I think I was 4 hours into a drive, and ended up in the ER because my constitution couldn't handle it, and the coffee I was drinking to try and stay awake, which would never been a problem before long COVID. You put me in a prison camp because the government doesn't let me have views, I will have a heart attack and die. I'll be dead. I need to get out of this country. I fear political persecution rightly, but I can't get political asylum because countries in Europe are being cowardly. They are not accepting American political refugees, and they're delaying it. Even as the U.S. talks about Greenland, even as Sweden sends troops to help Denmark defend Greenland, they're still not taking refugees in the United States. It's like if you're on the verge of an armed conflict with the country, maybe you should take political refugees in that country. They could even be useful intelligence assets, although I have no illusion I'm useless to these pigs. Pigs. Useless against these pigs. Against the U.S., against the fascists. I would be of no use to... I do not think the Swedes are pigs. I'm talking about the MAGA people, but my brain doesn't always get the words right with long COVID. I honor and respect that the Nordic democracies have created fair societies. I would love to go one of them. It'll be hard enough to learn the language, but the harder thing is that they'll never let me in legally. Not when I'm disabled. Well, that's it. Perhaps I should come up with a new farewell. Tad Sturmer likes to say Alan Z, whatever that means. But I'll just end this how I always do. My viewers, take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. And may you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Until next time, it's Northstar. Adieu. And best luck to you all.